About 3 years ago, I spent $10.44 at Aldi and made 2 dinners for my family of 5. One of the dinners was a bean and rice chili cheese burrito with some zucchini, and then the other one was a veggie pasta with some cheesy crescent rolls. I was at Aldi yesterday and decided I would check and see how much it would cost to recreate that meal plan today. It is May of 2026 when I'm filming this, and the cost of the 9 items that I purchased for that meal plan 3 years ago today would be $13.46. I was actually kind of surprised to see that 2 of the 9 items were less today than they were 3 years ago, the cheese and the zucchini. The other items had all gone up a little bit in price, and the biggest price increase was actually the burrito size tortillas. They increased from $1.29 to $2.09. That's 80 cents or over 60% increase. Now, if I wanted to recreate this meal plan today and shave a little bit off my total, I could make a few swaps. For instance, I could get the fajita size tortillas instead of the burrito size tortillas. I could also swap out the no bean chili I used in the original video for just regular chili that has beans, because the all meat chili is a little pricier than the chili that has beans in it. And I would probably also see if my Aldi had the ready-made pizza dough, because the crescent rolls had increased in price quite a bit, but the regular pizza dough is less, and I could use that to make cheesy bread instead of the crescent rolls. But I also decided to see what I could do with $13.46 in Aldi today when I'm filming this. I started out thinking about proteins, and I bypassed all of the fresh meat and went to the freezer section because I think that there is a very little known deal on protein there. It's a pound of ground turkey frozen, and it was $2.19. And then I went over to the eggs because they're only $1.46 a dozen right now in my Aldi. Have you guys seen better prices on eggs recently? And I'm also gonna pick up one of my favorite vegetarian unsung protein heroes, cottage cheese, plus a block of cheese. I picked up the mozzarella this time. Over in the pantry aisle, I'm picking up 2 pounds of spaghetti noodles. They also had angel hair that would work in this as well. I thought about using a jar of marinara sauce. You certainly could if you wanted to, but instead I opted for this 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes that I'm gonna season myself to make a tomato sauce. Now I'm thinking about vegetables, and I'm not gonna pick up any fresh vegetables this time because it's gonna bust my budget. I thought about these frozen stir-fry vegetables, but then I opted for just a standard bag of mixed vegetables plus a bag of frozen cut green beans. Those are each only 98 cents right now in my Aldi. Altogether, these items came out to $13.53, which is just 7 cents more than my $13.46 budget. I think that's pretty good. Now, if you're willing to spend just a little bit more, I can show you a dessert to go along with these meals also. Now, I'm gonna show you how I am using those 8 items plus some standard seasonings and kitchen staples from my regular kitchen here to make 2 family meals for my family of 5. And my family all have adult appetites because it's me, my husband, and our 3 teenage children. We are gonna make a spaghetti pie. But first, I wanna get these green beans simmering. If I'm being honest, I don't love the frozen cut green beans. I like the canned cut green beans, and I like the frozen whole green beans, but I really like these the best if I can simmer them on the stove to make them flavorful and tender. So I'm gonna put these in a pot with some water and some seasoning. I'll probably just use a little garlic salt or maybe a little chicken broth bouillon. I'm gonna bring those to a low simmer and cover them and just let them simmer. I'll check on them, you know, every 10 minutes or so, make sure there's enough water in there. I want these to simmer for probably 30 to 45 minutes. If you want to use a jar of prepared pasta sauce or marinara, then you won't need to do this next step, but I essentially need to make mine because I just bought a can of crushed tomatoes. So I need to simmer that with some seasonings for a little while to give it a little flavor. I used about 2 teaspoons of Italian seasoning and then a teaspoon of garlic salt, a teaspoon of sugar, and a pinch of red pepper flake. If I'm doing that on the stove, I put it in a little saucepan and let it simmer very low for like 30 minutes or so. You want to be careful with tomato-based products. Keep the lid on, but check on it, make sure it's not burning. I put everything in my little crock pot earlier today so that my sauce would already be ready to go when we start to put this casserole together. I cooked a pound of my spaghetti noodles, and when those were almost finished cooking, I drained them and then I put them back in the pot and added my homemade marinara and tossed the pasta with the sauce. So now that is sitting on the stove. It is still hot, so the pasta is gonna soak up that sauce as it finishes cooking. And I am making the filling by emptying my carton of cottage cheese. This is a 24-ounce carton of cottage cheese, so that's 3 cups. I'm gonna crack 4 eggs into this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Gonna have to wash my counter here. I'm gonna add some garlic powder and also some fresh cracked pepper. Give that a stir. Break up the egg yolks there. I shredded up my entire block of mozzarella cheese. I don't want to use all of it in the filling. I only want to use about half. I want to reserve a little bit to top the casserole with. Now I'm ready to assemble the casserole. I'm going to go ahead and grease my casserole dish here. I'm going to start with a layer of spaghetti noodles. I'm going to do 2 layers of noodles, so I need to use about half, maybe a little more than half here in the bottom of the pan. Make sure that the bottom of the pan is completely covered. Now I'm gonna top that with all of my filling. I'm only doing 1 layer of the cheesy filling, and I will just spread that out evenly over the top of the noodles. This is gonna make a lot, I can tell. This is gonna be way more than just for my family of 5. Finish it out by adding the 2nd layer of sauced noodles. If I was using a meat sauce, I might layer this a little bit differently, but this is how I'm making it since there's no meat in the sauce. I'd probably layer it more like a lasagna with the sauce and the noodles and the cheese mixture like all separate instead of tossing the pasta with the sauce. And then I'm going to add some mozzarella cheese on top. I'm gonna cover this with foil and pop it into a 350-degree oven to heat through. How long will it take it to heat through? So much depends. Am I putting it into the oven right after I have assembled it when all of the ingredients are warm and it doesn't have very far to go to heat through? Or have I made it ahead of time and stored it in the refrigerator so it's heating up from cold? I am going to start by keeping it covered for 30 minutes at 350. I'll check on it and see how it's doing. And once I feel like it is heated through, it's starting to get bubbly around the edges, I'm gonna take the foil off for the last like 3 to 5 minutes and try to get that cheese all nice and toasty on the top. I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Upside. They have been a longtime See Mindy Mom supporter, and I have been a longtime Upside user. I like that the Upside app is free to download and it's cash back on a lot of purchases I'm probably already making anyway, like gas for the mom van and groceries at a local grocery store, or even a pizza on those nights when I just don't want to cook. Using the Upside app is really easy. When I'm ready, I just open it up and look at the offers in my area. I claim one of those offers and then I go to that place and make a purchase using the card that I have already linked in my app. And then the cash back just shows up in my Upside account, usually within a few days. And there are over 100,000 participating locations in the Upside app. So once I downloaded it and I saw, hey, I get gas at that gas station, or I shop at that store, or I pick up food at that restaurant, these are purchases I'm already making, so I might as well get a little cash back. And yes, it is cash, not points that might expire or credits you may never use. It is money that you can transfer to your bank account. Upside has given back $1 billion to its users. To find out how much you could earn, just download the free Upside app using the link in the description box or the QR code right here, and use my code Mindy to get an extra 25 cents back for every gallon on your first tank of gas. That's an extra 25 cents back for every gallon on your first tank of gas when you use my code Mindy. Just download the free Upside app, link in the description, or just scan the QR code right here. And thank you again to Upside for sponsoring today's video. I'm doing sort of a take on like a hibachi noodle or a noodle stir fry. So I have my ground turkey and my frozen vegetables plus 4 eggs out. And I have a pot of water coming to a boil on the stove. And as soon as that is boiling, I will add 1 pound or half of my 2-pound package of spaghetti. From my spice drawer, I have pulled out some onion powder, garlic powder, and red pepper flake. If you have fresh onions and garlic, that'd be great too. I also have some ginger, some salt and pepper. I'm gonna use a little bit of sugar. I'm just gonna use white sugar from my sugar bowl. Brown sugar would be fine. I'm gonna use a little soy sauce, and I didn't have any rice wine vinegar, so I'm just gonna use what I have, which is apple cider vinegar. Totally optional, a little bit of Worcestershire and a little bit of beef broth base. This is gonna help my turkey taste a little bit more beefy because I prefer ground beef to ground turkey, but the ground turkey is more cost efficient, right? Also optional, a little bit of cornstarch, but you could live without this. It's just gonna help thicken the sauce a little bit, you'll see. While my pasta is cooking, and I want it to cook to just shy of al dente, I am browning up my ground turkey. I did add just a little bit of oil. I wanted to go pretty light on the oil because this is not lean ground turkey, so it's gonna render some fat as it cooks. We're gonna add some more to this later, but for now, I am going to add just a little bit of beef broth base, like maybe a teaspoon, and then maybe a teaspoon of Worcestershire, totally optional. You don't have to do this. I just like the beefy flavor that it adds. This is almost done cooking, so I'm gonna go ahead and add my frozen mixed vegetables. They're still a little frozen, but that's okay. They will soften up and get tender as the turkey finishes cooking. I wanna make sure it doesn't burn, so I'm gonna turn the heat down a little bit. And I'm gonna add just a little, like maybe a 1/4 cup of the water from my pasta cooking next to it to keep it from burning, sticking to the bottom. I have a 1/4 cup of soy sauce here. I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of vinegar. I'm gonna add some garlic powder. I'm probably gonna add about a teaspoon. You could add more or less depending on your taste. About 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder. Oops, there we go, 1/2 teaspoon-ish. I like a little red pepper flake, so I'm gonna add about a 1/4 teaspoon of that. I'm gonna add about a tablespoon of sugar, and also about, I don't know, what do you suppose that is? Well, let's just say a tablespoon of cornstarch. I'm stirring this all together. I am going to add it to the pan with my turkey and my vegetables when the turkey is done cooking. And I'm also going to use a ladle to add about a cup of my starchy pasta water. And then I'm gonna let my meat and vegetables simmer for a little bit, kind of soak up this seasoning in this sauce. I forgot the ginger, so I'm just gonna add a little bit here to the pan. Maybe like 1/4 teaspoon or so. I'm not a huge ginger fan. Before I drained my pasta, I reserved about a cup of the pasta water, and it is sitting in the strainer in the sink. I did not rinse it. I want it to be hot when I add it to my mixture here that I'm making, so I know I'm working with a timeline. And that's actually why I undercooked the pasta just a little bit, because I know it's still cooking just a smidge since it's warm. I've got my 4 eggs cracked. I'm adding 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, little bit of ginger, pinch of red pepper flake, and a little bit of garlic salt. The soy sauce is pretty salty, so I don't want to add too much salt. Whisk that. I'm gonna add just a little bit of this pasta water. It is very hot. I want to keep stirring here. Start to temper my eggs. I just took my pasta off the stove and drained it. My pot is still warm too. I've got a pot holder underneath. My pasta is still warm. I'm gonna add my egg mixture in while I toss the pasta around here. This is the part where I give a little disclaimer about consuming raw or undercooked eggs or other meat products. As always, you need to do your own research and do what you are comfortable with. I have made ramen using this method where you beat the eggs and pour it into the warm pasta, which is what gave me this idea. But you could leave the eggs out altogether and just add the cooked pasta to the sauce, or you could cook the eggs separately, like scramble them up and serve them along with this dish as well. This has been simmering for about 8 minutes, 8 to 10 minutes. It smells amazing. I was debating how to do this, and I think I'm just gonna add my meat and veggie mixture right here with the noodles and give it a good toss to combine everything. This is gonna turn out a little bit like saucy, just a smidge soupy, but that's actually kind of what I was going for with this dish. Like I said, if you want it a little drier, you don't have to do the eggs the way that I did them. You could cook them separately. You could leave them out all together, just do the noodles, add them to your meat dish. Now for the real test, the taste test, because what does any of this matter if it's not edible, right? Okay, that turned out so good, like even better than I thought it would be. It's very flavorful, but without being overpowering, you know, because I'm thinking about my kids when I'm making these things too. And so if it's like an incredibly overpowering ginger flavor, they're probably not gonna like it. But the amount of seasonings that I used, I think is just right, at least for us. And I really like that it's kind of a little bit saucier than if I hadn't used the eggs, but that's just me. Now this is totally optional. I could just stay at my $13.53 total for my 2 dinners, but since I was picking up eggs, I decided that I would go ahead and grab a box of this chewy fudge brownie mix, which was $1.45. That brings my total to just under $15. Now this brownie mix, just according to the box directions, calls for 2/3 of a cup of oil, 2 eggs, and a 1/4 cup of water, but I'm gonna substitute a 1/4 cup of this leftover coffee from this morning. It is cooled down. I would not wanna put hot coffee into my brownie batter. I would be afraid that it would make my eggs cook. My husband brought home some of my favorite coffee from one of his Texas trips, one of his business trips, so I don't want it to go to waste. I am also gonna add a teaspoon of vanilla and a teaspoon of cinnamon. Once I have all of this stirred together, and I'm gonna be careful not to overmix it, I'm gonna pour it into a greased baking dish. My oven is preheating to 325, which is just a little bit less than the recommendation on the box, but I read somewhere that if you bake your brownies at 325, that's what you need to do for fudgy brownies, which is what I prefer, to get that kind of soft baked center. I'm setting my timer to 20 minutes to check on these, and then I will just add a few minutes at a time until they are to the doneness that I like, you know, the doneness, however you say that, until they're done to my liking. I hope this video was helpful for you in some way. As always, I'm just trying to give some ideas. You can use this as a jumping off point and make it your own by adjusting things to your liking. Some people might call these brownies undercooked. I just say they're delicious, but that's just me. If you want more cooking on a budget type content, you can check out this video, or YouTube thinks you might want to watch this one.